This session will provide comprehensive, step-by-step guidance on how to adopt openings, also called provision for voids, from linked IFC and Revit models. Start ConVoid and begin by creating an opening filter. This filter will be used to define the conditions for the opening adoption process. To adopt openings from linked models, create one or multiple filters. If multiple disciplines exchange openings with you, such as mechanical and electrical, you may want to differentiate between these disciplines by creating two filters. If you still need to load the ConVoid families into your project, a window will appear, prompting you to do so. Click Yes, and the ConVoid library will open. If you are having trouble finding the families, simply click on the bottom link in the window to download the library. Once downloaded, import the families listed in the window into your project. Continue by defining the upper and lower levels, and may include an offset. ConVoid will then adapt openings between these levels. If the section box in a 3D view is activated, this option is grayed out, as the scope has already been set. In this section, you must select the projects that include the openings or provision for voids. Choose the categories of openings. The common category of openings is generic models, but it can also be a different one. To identify the category of the openings, select a linked opening and check the category in the Properties window. In the section below, you must select the projects that include the host elements, which refer to elements such as walls, floors, beams, and roofs. So most commonly, it is the architectural and structural models. Choose the categories of host elements where horizontal openings, such as wall openings, and vertical openings, such as floor openings, should be placed. Make a reasonable selection. Create horizontal openings in walls, structural framing, structural columns, etc. Create vertical openings in floors, roofs, stairs, etc. Furthermore, clicking on the plus sign lets you select the family type to be considered in the creation process. If no family types are chosen, ConVoid will use all category elements. If you wish to exclude certain host elements from the creation process, we recommend checking out the session about excluding elements. Go to the settings by clicking on the toolbox, and make sure to set your settings as shown here. We'll go through the settings in a separate session and explain how it will affect the process. Click the refresh button to start the clash detection between the selected reference and host categories. The condition field will be enabled once the clash detection has been completed. Now you have to define the conditions of the openings. Select the level constraint for the horizontal openings. We highly recommend selecting the host level as it provides the best results. By selecting host level, the openings will follow the levels of the host element, such as the base and top level of the wall. Select the level constraint for the vertical openings. We highly recommend selecting the building story option, which provides the best results. By selecting building story, the openings will be constrained to the nearest upper and lower building story. In the next step, you must choose the creation mode. Opening mode. ConVoid will create penetrations that fully intersect the host element, even if the reference element does not penetrate the host element completely. Recess mode. If the reference element does not fully intersect the host element, ConVoid will create a recess. However, if the reference element does intersect the host element, it will generate a penetration. Auto mode. ConVoid will automatically decide whether to create a penetration or a recess based on the geometry of the host and reference elements. We highly recommend to go through the parameter filter section before selecting a mode. The oversize value is used to increase the dimension of an opening with a clearance zone to keep enough space between MEP services and host elements. Since the aim is to adopt the exact dimension of the linked openings, keep the value at 0. The rectangular and circular opening families will be automatically selected. You can duplicate or rename the ConVoid families to create new types. To do so, please refer to the Revit Families session. When adopting linked openings, it is advisable to group them by type in order to achieve better results if model inaccuracies lead to unwanted openings. We strongly recommend reviewing the parameters of the linked openings before setting up the parameter filter. Select a linked opening and look for parameters that may describe the opening types in more detail, such as the type, opening, penetration, recess or provision for void, the orientation, horizontal or vertical, or a combination, wall opening, wall recess, floor opening or floor recess. These descriptions may vary, but distinguishing between wall and floor openings and recesses can be helpful. Next, we will explain two workflows. Simply continue with the workflow that suits you best. Linked openings don't have a description of their type. If the linked openings don't have specific descriptions of their type, you can use a global parameter to filter them. For example, if the linked model and the selected category only contain openings, you can use the All Reference Elements parameter. However, if the linked elements of the selected category include more than just openings, it's important to identify a parameter that only the openings share. The green symbol above indicates how many openings approximately will be created based on your parameter selection. After that, please set the creation mode to auto to let ConVoid automatically decide whether to adopt a linked opening as a penetration or a recess. Linked openings do have a description of their type. If you can group the opening by their type, you can avoid that ConVoid misunderstands model inaccuracies. Here are some common examples where ConVoid may adopt openings wrong. A wall opening intersects with a floor and creates an additional unwanted recess in the floor. A wall opening penetrates a wall not completely, and ConVoid adopts it as a recess instead of a penetration. To avoid this, you can tell ConVoid how to adopt the linked openings by grouping the opening by their type and orientation with the help of the parameter filter, as shown here. Additionally, make sure to select the correct creation mode opening or recess, depending on your filter. You can add and define more opening types by clicking on Add Horizontal Opening Type and Add Vertical Opening Type. Click OK to start the process of adopting the openings. ConVoid will now place the openings automatically in your project. All your settings will be automatically saved by just clicking OK. The openings are displayed as symbols in the 2D view. The families contain a variety of symbols, which you can select according to your needs. Please refer to the session family symbols. In a 3D view, the openings are represented as solids. After the placement of the openings, you can run ConVoid with a different filter. We will create one additional one for the linked mechanical and plumbing openings. Open ConVoid and create a new opening filter. Alternatively, you can duplicate and rename an existing filter. Next, select the models and categories for your filter and run ConVoid again. Repeat this process as many times as needed to create additional filters for your project. You are now ready to continue the next session.